Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it? You already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye up, bye up. And in Menudo style in direct fashion, we're going to get straight into the content of the day. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that I am kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel. It's all because of you. And for that, I can say I'm very humbled and very appreciative. So gracias. Thank you. I couldn't do without you. So a lot of things happened over this weekend and this week. And I'm going to be getting to all the dope content this week. I've been off for a few days, man. Had to take some R&R, some time for myself. Had some friends flying. Had to do what I had to do. It's all good in the hood, but I'm back at it like a motherfucking smack at it. So an unfortunate twist and an unfortunate situation happened. And I thought that if for no other reason, I should speak on it just a little bit, man, and give you guys some information you're not going to get anywhere, only exclusively right here on Gunners Collective TV, based upon, I know the little homie, right? Little Smokey, Edward Ramos, was found unresponsive or dead in his jail cell in Merced County Jail. Now, I've known little Smokey since he was about 8 or 9 years old, okay? In fact, you know, one of my baby's mothers, this is a cousin of hers, and it's a sad situation. It's sad from the outside looking in based upon that. I remember this kid, he was young, he was happy, smiling kid all the time. And I was very, very good friends with his father, Big Smokey from Livas, right? Known Smokey for 20 plus years, maybe even 30, since I was a youngster. And is a very well-respected gentleman. Heavy in the game at one point, comes from a family that I could say has a lot of respect within the Norteño world. And ever since I knew little Smokey, Edward Ramos, I remember being with my baby's mother and him always being around, us not living far. In fact, we lived right around the corner in Livingston from him, in Livas. I would see him all the time. Now, I will say this. One thing that I've always hated is people that play dress up, pretend, make believe, wannabe, right? That are in the game, gang related, and they give their kid no chance. They dress them in Ben Davis's, Charlie Brown's, Raiders jackets. It's different if you're a fan of a team and you want your kid to grow up to be a fan of that team. But when you're cutting his hair gang related, putting red rags on him, and he's just a little kid, you're giving him really no options, no other options. A kid is only going to do what he sees his parents or those around him do. And I've always hated that when I see it online, social media, or just in real life, kids that are being pushed in a direction without giving opportunity and giving choice. And Lil Smokey was one of them kids. I remember watching from a distance and seeing him hit the corner with his family, and all of them dressed gang related, all of them flamed up. And that was one thing I could say that I felt some type of way towards his father about, that just, he wasn't giving his son the opportunity. Now, he was a great father, man. Hands-on, always there with his kids, walking around Livingston, going to stores and all this. This is things I witnessed in my life, in real life. But I always felt like this kid, little Smokey, never had a chance. He was pointed in one direction and one direction only. He used to come to my home all the time just based upon I was with his cousin at that time. And, like I said, he wasn't a bad kid, but I knew how it was going to end up. So as the years passed, I watched him get involved with gangs, get involved with Livas, and he was a Norteño, or he started to roll that way. Now, when I split up with my baby's mother, I kind of distanced myself from what he had going on. I moved. But I always kept updated on what was going on back home with family. I have friends that are still in the mix, friends that are still around that family. And, it was just tragic. It was tragic when I heard that he got incarcerated, got sent to Pelican Bay, got locked up. All these kids that I see grow up, they were all getting locked up. They were all doing a lot of time. And it was the atmosphere in the area they were in. And little Smokey was right there. He was one of them in the mix. Getting his respect and gaining his respect for putting in his work, he found himself in Pelican Bay, locked up. The average Norteño on the streets that really had no choice in life but to go one direction. That's all he's seen around him. And believe me, his family was heavily gang related, so it just was what it was. I remember when a homegirl said, I asked about him, whatever happened to little Eddie? And she said, oh, he's in Pelican Bay. He's doing time. He's in the mix. Okay, I understand. So about, I'd say 6-7 months ago, I did a video and it popped up on the radar. And the video was, little Smokey had gotten his house raided. And you got to understand, in Merced County, everyone knows everyone. The cops know people. They went to school together. They're always recruiting new officers. So it's not like they're bringing people from big cities. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows each other's families. It's just smaller area in the Central Valley, right? But little Smokey's house gets raided. And when it gets raided, they find an alleged police officer, Leah Garcia, butt naked in his bed, right? Now, it doesn't matter who you're having a relationship with. It wasn't like they met on the inside. In fact, I know how they met in the Pacific, to be specific, right? But it wasn't like they were having this inmate-staff relationship. But anytime, a cop is caught with an active gang member or an alleged active gang member, it's going to look some type of way. People are going to feel some type of way. They don't care about love or care about what you got going on. They're just going to trip out on it, right? It's, it just is what it is. Now, in the gang lifestyle, the gang aspect of it, you knock the cop, you're good, you got her, right? Hopefully she's paying like she's weighing and she's feeding you information or giving you what you can get out of her. But in this situation, I don't know if that was it. From what I'm hearing and from what I know, it might have been the other way around. So anyways, when the house was raided, she was caught butt naked in his bed. The internet was talking. People were talking in the city of Merced. People were talking in the city of Livingston. Did you hear what happened to little Smokey? He got caught with this black guy. Now, were they having an ongoing relationship? Obviously, he was in bed with her. It wasn't a one-time deal. She knew what it was. The situation became even more laughable and funny because the home that he lived in was an abandoned house. He was basically posted up, fucking, what do you call that? Just chilling in an abandoned home with no lights on, right? So she had went down to the bottom of the barrel, but it was what it was. He was winning, and that's all that mattered. Now, let me give you guys some history into that. When I seen this article and I decided to do the video 6-7 months ago, I called the homegirl who's very close friends with the family, and I got the rundown. I'm like, hey, what happened? Nah, no way. He's over there fucking boning the cop. She said, look, this is what happened. That he was actually staying with her, little Eddie, Smokey. He was actually staying, we call him little Eddie, man. People called him little Smokey in the gang life. Whatever you wanted to call him, I knew him as little Eddie, right? Because his father's name is Eddie. So she said he came home one day and told her and her old man, like, hey, I just knocked a cop. She pulled me over on my bike, literally, his bike. And he started popping game at her. And imagine this officer chopping it up and filling some guy on a bike. I don't know about her standards. Something tells me her picker's fucked up, right? But anyway, that's how she was feeling. And no one believed him. Like, yeah, you're on Scante, homie. You're on a good one. Whatever, right? Come to find out, he was actually telling the truth. He actually did knock this cop, got her number, and started a relationship with her for whatever reason, right? Now, I believe this was outside of the gang realm. He wasn't doing it as a norteño and a cop. It was just him and her. And they continued this relationship for however long until ultimately they got caught. So, when the word was out there, when I seen that and the homegirl told me how they met and that she couldn't believe it, but he was really doing this, it was what it was. So I asked her, hey, how's he doing now, since this happened? And he was basically out of the way. She's told me she hadn't talked to him for a minute, that he was just living in various places. He was what you would call, didn't have an actual place to stay, was moving from place to place. And his family, man, is pretty, besides his father had his shit together, lightweight, right? But his family fell apart years ago. Here's a little history, right? When we lived in Livas, they lived right around the corner from us. And it was actually his mother's father's home where they lived. And his mother's a good friend of mine as well, little Smokey's mom. And like I said, their family would always come walking over. We had a lot of interaction, barbecues, birthday parties. They'd bring all the kids, all little Smokey's brothers and sisters. So I knew him well. And about, I'd say shit, it's been almost 10 years now, maybe a little less than that. Not about 10 years, right? Little Smokey had a Theo, his uncle, had just got out of prison. I remember meeting him, Chino from Turlock, and he was a Northern Rider. And I remember my first interaction with him. He came to the pad. He wanted to smoke a joint. I didn't know who he was, so I was kind of like, "What's up, bro? What are you doing over here at my baby's mom's pad, right?" You know, lightweight, jealous, like, "What's going on?" And he was like, "Nah, we're just friends, bro. I came to blaze a joint, you know what I'm saying, with the homegirl, whatever." I said, "Nah, hell nah, we ain't doing it like that, bro. You got to do it pushing." I didn't know who he was, right? So over time, I figured out who his sister was. He was part of the family, lightweight. And everything was good. Well, about less than a year after I met him, he was tragically murdered in Livingston, right? He was walking on his way to work. He worked at Foster Farms, and I guess he was walking to work, man, and they gave him 9 shots, right? He got hit 9 shots at 6 a.m. I remember that happened. And I remembered because I was in San Francisco and I got a phone call, me and my baby's mom at the time, and she started tripping like, "Man," I said, "What happened?" She said, "Man, Chris is gone. They got him." And then I talked to Smokey, Big Smokey, Little Smokey's dad. He's like, "Man, Chris is gone," which that was his brother-in-law at the time, right? Little Smokey's uncle. And I was like, wow, that was a tragedy. I remember when that happened, like, wow, feeling some type of way about it. But it was what it was. It was part of the game. He was a dropout gang member in a very active city. It was only a matter of time before they caught up with him, and they did, right? Or somebody did. I don't know if anyone's been arrested in that case, so it is what it is. But that's what happened. That was the first funeral, that Little Smokey's mother had to go through. And then a few years later, her father passes away, right? And so that's another tragedy in the family, that she had to go through and endure. And in the midst of that, her and her old man, they split up. They couldn't reconcile. A lot of shit was going on. And I remember going to California. I was living in Washington at the time. And I went to California to go visit, and I hung out with Roxanne. That's her name, right? Hung out with her and my homegirl and a few other people, which is Little Smokey's mom. And she was just telling me about what they were going through and everything. And I was like, wow, this is a fucked up situation. It's understandable, but, it happens. I asked her about little Eddie. He was in Pelican Bay at the time, in prison. So fast forward years later, now the mother's having to deal with what just happened. So this weekend in Merced County Jail, the cops searched the cell and found little Eddie unresponsive. Basically, he had passed away. Now, let me tell you about the Merced County Jail. It's very dangerous. I've told a lot of stories, giving you guys a lot of content, a lot of insight into the Merced County Jail. It's one of the places that I've been in my life that I'm never trying to go back. Not because of the incarceration or the time. The time ain't shit, right? As dangerous as any situation you can be placed in, this is it. This is it. This is somewhere where if there's any type of smut or dirt on your name, if there's any non-gangsterisms or mannerisms in your game, you don't want to go here. You have to be the top of the top. You have to be at a certain level. You have to function to the highest degree in the Merced County Jail. Now, I know you're saying it's a little city, Central Valley. Nah, they ain't doing it like that. I don't know about the Southsiders, about the whites, and even the Southerners, though, because they be killing fools over there. But as a Norteño, you have to function hardcore. You have to be up to par or get there fast, right? I remember back in the days going to that county jail, before it got structured up, before it started functioning hand in hand with CDC, with prison, style structure. And it was cool. You go into the county jail, do your thing, chill with the homies, bust a spread, homie, and all that. But later on, what happened was it got more political. More politics were involved. And it came to a certain point where motherfucking active Norteños didn't even want to go there. Like, no, the block was treacherous. It's called the block, right? The reason they call it the block is because in the jail, everybody is segregated. So the block is just all Northerners, all Norteños from different cities, from different areas, from different gangs. And they all are on one block. And like I said, if there's any dirt, smut, any type of skepticism on your name, you're not going to make it off that block alive or uninjured. There's no one to run to, nowhere to PC up, nowhere, no cops to yell, "Hey, help," right? There's none of that. If it's all bad, it's going to get all bad all the time. And that's just how that is. And I remember going to that county jail in 2016, and every homeboy that I knew and I seen was a different story. These guys were looking at me like they want to do something bad to me. And I was like, damn, I might be in a situation the gun can't find himself out of. Of course, I wasn't worried about my name. My reputation preceded itself. I was good, so I wasn't worried about anything they'll find out in my past. Nothing like that. But just that aura and that feeling you get of a whole bunch of individuals that are looking for any reason to tear your head off, for the drama, for the fun, for the righteousness of the household security. It's just ugly. So I remember seeing homeboys that I was just on the streets with a few days looking at me like they had the eye of the tiger, right? Dun, 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 dun. I was like, oh, nah, this motherfucker thinks he's Clever Lang, right? But it was all good for me, obviously. Now, Little Smokey being found unresponsive, there's a lot of people with a lot of rumors. I'm about to give you the real deal right here. Something that's never been said. You're not going to get on any other channel. Did this have anything to do with the officer he was sleeping with? Perhaps, right? Now, there's a lot of people, it's pretty suspicious that he gets unalived in his cell, but that's not the way it works. See, if he was in a segregated cell by himself, I'd be a little concerned. I would think, okay, maybe, just maybe, it was officer involved. Maybe, just maybe, it would be a little bit more suspicious, right? But this wasn't one of them situations. See, in the Merced County Jail, it's a long tier with 4 or 5 8-man cells. And that means he was on the block with nothing but northerners, norteños. Now, for whatever reason, if they find you unresponsive in your cell, that can only mean two things. Either health-wise, something happened, you OD'd, it was all bad. Things happen. People are out there running and gunning, and their health is not what it's supposed to be. Right? That could have been a situation. Then again, when you're in these cells, if you get removed or pegada happens and you're the victim, then there's no one to cry out to. Like I said, they're going to find you when they find you. It's not like the people who did it are going to yell keys, right? They're not going to alert the authorities that you're dead. So him being found unresponsive and the word on the curb is that he was already gone for a day before they found him. That's what I'm saying. It takes that long for them to catch up to you. Merced County Jail is very dangerous, right? Did this have anything to do with this officer? Now, here's some shit I heard, right? And again, take it for what you want. But I don't know who unalived this man. I don't know who killed him in that cell. I know that everybody in that 8-man cell, because he was found unresponsive, will be charged. They will be questioned. They will be investigated. Everything's going to be vetted, right? And they're going to find out who did it, man. There's no cameras pointing at that cell. For whatever purpose, but there definitely is going to be somebody who says something. And if not, then everyone's going to catch that case. That's just how that goes, right? They're going to charge everyone in that 8-man cell, they're going to find out. They always do. This is not the first time they found someone unresponsive in Merced County Jail in an 8-man cell. It happens periodically, but it happens. And I know it's crazy because having, knowing the city, knowing a little bit of everyone, man, half the guys that they found unresponsive, I know personally, right? And I know that, their situation was ugly. Now, with Little Eddie, a lot of people would think, well, he was a functioning norteño. He was really in the mix. He was out there having it his way. But let me tell you the truth. He was actually a good boy, man. He was actually not really that. It was all a facade. All this gangster, these mannerisms, everything that he displayed on the outside wasn't the true kid he was on the inside. He's really a good person. He just found himself, like I said, caught up in a situation where that's all he's seen and all he knew. He only knew norteñoism. That's all he knew. That's what his family, that's how they put him in that situation. I don't blame him. I blame his familia, straight up. Kid never got that opportunity. But, so here's the shit that no one else is going to tell you. So when I was talking to my homegirl a while back, I was like, so what's he up to? And she said, hey, have you heard? And I said, no. She said, the word on the curb is that he was a CI. That he was actually telling, right? And I was like, nah, not. And again, I haven't seen him for years, so I don't know what he found himself involved in. I know he was heavy into the Scante game. That's what I know for sure, right? But I was like, nah, I don't want to smut his name up like that. He don't do that shit. And I was like, nah, I ain't gonna put that out there because, that's not a situation that I think is real or true. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. And, for whatever reason, I guess she wasn't telling me from a place of hatred or just to be chismosa and run her mouth. she was telling me what the word was. So now, putting two and two together, him being placed in this cell, maybe he was and thought that nobody knew. But like I said, all your dirt, everything will come out eventually. It doesn't matter where you go, right? And if he was considered a rat or a snitch or a CI and working with the law enforcement and giving them information, then this is what happens. This is a situation where, you find yourself, and that's the wrong place to be, because the homies, what they call the norteños, the homies, ain't playing. Now, maybe this wasn't a situation like that. Maybe this was something totally different. He fucked up. Either way, he's no longer alive, and it's a sad, sad day, right? Because like I said, I know him personally, man. I knew him well. And I remember one time, so look, I used to work at the food bank back in the days, right? And at the food bank, they used to let us take off. It's a trip, man. I used to fucking be mad at the food bank. I'm still mad at the food bank. I'm going to tell you guys why I'm mad at the food bank. They be getting all these donations, all this shit from these stores, and they be giving people canned green beans with the white label that just say green beans and a fucked up half piece of chicken and some milk, right? When they got all kinds of food and stuff, and they just throw it away. They let it waste. It's a trip. Anyways, working there, I was a forklift driver there. We were allowed to take as much stuff as we wanted home to feed our families. And believe me, we had all the good stuff, all the pepperonis, all the bacon. I used to get these big bags of candy, big bags, the Reese's Pieces cups. Little Eddie used to like to come to my house. Little Smokey, right there in Livingston, him and his dad, his whole family used to come to my house because I had it all set up like on the back porch. I had an enclosed back porch. I had it like a store. I had all kinds of chips. I had all kinds of cookies. I had all kinds of candy. And I let the little kids grab bags of candy and all that. So he used to like to come tell his dad, come on, let's go. And get big old bags of Reese's Pieces. I remember that memory about him. That's how I remember. I don't remember him on Scante. I don't remember him being considered a confidential informant. I don't remember him boning a cop, right? Shit, winner is, right? I don't remember none of that. That's not the person that I knew. But it's a situation where now he's no longer with us. And I know it seems mysterious because he was sleeping with the cop. Like, is there any way they could have influenced that? I don't think so. I think he fucked up somewhere along the line and he found himself in the Merced County Jail, and it's unforgiving. That county jail is very unforgiving. Let me tell you a quick little story, right? Had a homeboy. He was on ice. He was on freeze there. And being on freeze doesn't mean you're in bad standings. It just means you're being questioned. There's a question mark on your name, right? How you get out of being under freeze, you got to get it co-signed by someone. They have to clear you. You have to go through the clearance process. Anyways, the people that was in there at that time, we were some ruthless motherfuckers, right? We were the type of individuals at that time, we were looking for any little reason to whack you. Any little reason to blackjad you. Just dangerous, right? So he's there and he's in my cell. So at that time I was cell security. So basically I was going to have to influence everyone to do something dangerous to him. And I grew up with this guy. This was my homie. He wasn't from my neighborhood. He was from a different neighborhood, but he was my homie. Like, I knew him very well. In fact, we probably knew each other the most in that whole cell out of everyone. Out of that whole county jail, that was my boy. And I remember he was looking up at me with them puppy dog eyes because he knew something bad was going to happen. I'm looking at him ruthless, like Michael Myers, like I could care less. In my heart, I cared. But in the exterior, I didn't give a fuck. It was just part of the game. You know what you signed up for. It's unfortunate saying that now, because now, man, I would have protected him. But anyways, I remember the powers that may be told me, hey, look, we're looking into this, but it's not looking good for the homie. And I was like, yeah, I know. We're going to do something horrible to him. He ends up getting called out to go to medical. Tier 10er comes to my cell and tells me just like this, hey, homie, where's that vato at? I said, they called him to medical. He said, the homie says that if he comes back from medical, because he knew at this point, he could feel it, what was coming. He said, if that vato comes back from medical, we're going to clear him. If that vato don't come back, then he wiggled, right? It's just like that. This is going to be the deciding factor. That motherfucker came back, bro. Balls of steel. He came back, right? He knew he was on the cusp of getting removed. And removal in the Merced County Jail is death, pretty much. He came back. I was happy, like, damn, you the homie, right? He actually got out, put $30 on my books, right? I always tell everyone, I only got $10 in 19 years from the homies from my neighborhood. He put more money. He put 3 times the amount of money, even from my neighborhood, than any homeboys put from my neighborhood on my books the whole 19 years I was locked up. Riddle me that, right? Anyways, that's just a situation where Merced County Jail could get dangerous. Rest in peace to little Smokey, little Eddie, man. It's sad. And whether he was a CI or wasn't a CI or whatever reason they have for what they did to him, he didn't deserve that. No one does, man. But it happens. Rest in peace, little Smokes. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive and struggle for what I truly believe in. That's the betterment of all people. And this is a perfect example why the gang life is vicious, man. You get in it, some by choice, some don't have no choice. But it always ends tragic, whether it's life in prison or death or dishonor or disloyalty. I just see no other way around it, man. No poison, just real. The gun.